Martin Brunt there. We'll have a further update from him during the day. Now, gigantic solar farms in space beaming electricity back to Earth with microwaves are a possibility. Not just science fiction, it's a possible future energy source. Our science correspondent Thomas Moore spoke exclusively to the company in Belfast that's hoping to make that a reality.
In a special lab that screens out electrical interference from today's world, they're testing a prototype of the power station of tomorrow. Scaled up, this would be a solar farm in space, generating electricity from constant sunlight, then beaming it back to Earth. At Queen's University in Belfast, they've shown the system works, lighting up a sign with power transmitted wirelessly across a room.
Space-based solar power is the concept of harvesting the solar energy in space where it's abundant and available day and night, and sending that to Earth. And so that we can have abundant, affordable and reliable energy all the time, day and night, and through all weather and seasons.
By the end of the decade, the British company Space Solar hopes to have a power station in orbit. A mile wide, it would beam power back to a receiving station anchored out at sea, enough for more than 1 million homes.
The beam is a microwave, but it's not like some kind of death ray. It has just a quarter of the power of the midday sun. I can safely step in front of it. Even when this is scaled up, nobody is going to get fried.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It only makes sense because of the most powerful rocket ever built. The new SpaceX Starship is likely to reduce launch costs to as little as 1% of what they were just 20 years ago. It should make it possible to generate electricity for a quarter of the price of nuclear energy on Earth. This independent engineer says it's the giant leap the world needs.
As a society, we have outgrown this planet, so it's only natural that we reach out to space.
And provide power from space.
It definitely was a sci-fi idea when I was young, but technology has advanced so much. I believe this is definitely something we could see in our lifetime.
There is still much to prove, not least that it's possible to build such a vast power station in orbit with robots. But the potential is so great that the UK is one of several countries now looking to keep the lights on from space.
So I'm pleased to say joins me now. Thomas, so my first question is, would we be beaming back the sunlight to a focal point on Earth, or would we be generating the electricity in space and then transferring that power?
The latter. So you're turning sunlight into electricity in space, turning that into a microwave, which isn't electricity, but is a very efficient way of transmitting power over long distances, and then turning it back into electricity to plug into the grid. Now, Elon Musk said this was the stupidest idea ever, because you're going through so many conversions that you would lose a lot of energy. But the sun is so intense in space, it's 13 times more efficient to generate solar electricity in space than it is down here on the ground. You have abundant energy day and night, so it more than compensates for any energy losses along the way.
That the big hurdle to this, the transfer, the microwave transfer of the electricity, because I guess otherwise it's sort of obvious, isn't it, that we'd put the solar panels as close to the sun as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. But this is going to be something that would be about 22,000 miles above the Earth, a long way from most other satellites, so out of harm's way, and then beaming that over great distances back down to a receiving station off the UK coast, so well away from people's homes and far less visible than, say, a wind farm. But because it is drawing or providing energy day and night, it becomes what's called base load. So you have to compare it against nuclear energy, or even some of the really new technologies like nuclear fusion, which is still on the lab bench and proving very difficult to make a commercial prospect. This, they believe, would be far more realistic, even though you would have to find some way of getting robots to build a kit of parts in space that has been lifted off the ground by that SpaceX rocket.
Which sounds fairly tricky. But Thomas, talk to me. Would this be totally green, this energy, or is the microwave transmission of the electricity imperfect in that sense?
So the microwave energy is not going to kind of heat up the Earth or anything like that. It's not going to add to global warming. However, they do need to show that the carbon footprint of 68 rocket launches can be quickly overcome, mitigated by all that energy that you're harvesting in space and sending back to Earth. Now, they think they can provide those figures, but there are others who do believe that perhaps the rocket launches, particularly in the upper atmosphere, might have ecological costs, environmental costs that haven't been accounted for in the sums. But this does look like something that is going to happen. The government and lots of other companies, including the National Grid and the EDF, are well behind it.
Interesting, Thomas, that you said Elon Musk is sceptical of this, given that he's somewhat of a solar and battery storage expert. I mean, is this Belfast company the only company in the world that thinks it's possible or not?
No, so China and Japan, some US companies are all taking a really good look at this because of the attractiveness. Now that you can lift stuff into space so cheaply for a few $100s a kilogram, it becomes very realistic if you can overcome the environmental challenges of building something remotely in orbit. But they do believe things are happening so fast in space now that this is going to be routine in the years to come.
Thomas, absolutely fascinating as always. Thanks so much. You're watching Sky News Today. Still to come, Israel's